by the blood of our people are your lands kept safe.
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
Lord of the Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 6, Udun. Hello everyone and welcome. We are the Fellowship of the Two Kings. On this channel, we love talking about Lord of the Rings, in particular through the visual medium. We touch on other forms of fantasy and even dabble in sci-fi, so if you love deep discussions about great works of fiction, please click on that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's jump right in. So, this episode finally gets the battles going, and I thought they were pretty good, but even the build-up to them I thought was really good. We start with a continuation of the speech that Adar was giving to his fellow orcs, or as he prefers to be called, Uruk. So, yeah, he's kind of got almost a hybrid elf Uruk culture to him, right? Because he's got we see a little bit of this later on about like planting stuff and like pre-battle and planting stuff post-battle, and how that's supposed to
Was that what he was doing in the dirt there? He was
that's
planting
what I
something.
think. Well, he was either planting something or
I mean,
like
that's clever.
yeah, so he was either planting something or just it was almost he just couldn't help himself because this is part of what he would have learned.
This
as
is
an
just
elf.
what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's doing something in the dirt. Like he's got his hand in the dirt there. And he's uncovering. I don't know if there's a root there or something, but it definitely had a similar feel to it. Like it's almost. And he even says new life, which is what we see later on. With Arondir. But anyway, like I just thought that was a nice parallel there, that he still has, despite feeling like he is an Uruk, he still has these elf traditions. I mean, heck, they even call him Adar, which is an elf word. So, yeah, I just thought it was a nice touch there to start with that.
So, yeah, he's giving the speech to the orcs and Waldrig before they attack Osterolf.
Yeah, and other humans as well, I think. But
I just saw Waldrig. You see Waldrig. You see Waldrig kind of look at the orc next to him.
Yeah,
it's funny. He's a good actor. He has good comedic timing.
Yeah, I really like this actor. I hope he sticks around. And this proves to me he's not Sauron, because that look is for the audience only, and so there's no reason for that look. He's definitely not Sauron, unfortunately. I think he would make a great Sauron in disguise. Like, he just wants to, like, get a feel for, like, who he's going to be ruling. But no, he's definitely not Sauron after this.
Yep, and they're chanting Nampat as they walk to the tower, which means death.
Which is
black speech.
It's an interesting idea, because that is what the Rohirrim scream as they charge. So,
death.
Yeah, so there's an interesting parallel there. I actually thought there was a lot of good. So I think this episode, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but this episode has a lot of good parallels to some of Peter Jackson's ideas and themes, and sometimes they've reversed it. In the case of here, we've got the orcs doing, either we got Adar doing some elf stuff, we've got the orcs chanting death, similar to the Rohirrim, but other times it does feel like it's almost the same scene, just with different characters, as we'll get into with Bronwyn later on. But I'm jumping.
So they just open the door to the tower. It's not defended.
Yeah, there's something weird about that, right? Because like we saw them kind of, well, at the end of the last episode, we didn't know what their plan was, because Bronwyn had like a change of heart. She wanted to like leave now, and it was kind of out of left field, because she was the one pushing for people to stay and fight at the beginning of that episode. And so I don't know, it was just kind of odd to see. And then when we do get here, and there is no, like, this is an easily defended little gateway here. Like, look how narrow this bridge is.
arguably easier to defend than that village. Yet they decide to take their stand at the. We'll get to that.
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
though.
So literally no arrows are flying. These guys just get to walk up without any issue.
Yep, and we see Arondir is still lurking around the castle. He's hiding, or tower. Adar looks at the statue with the hilt, and Waldrick asks Adar about Sauron.
Yeah.
And he doesn't answer. Adar doesn't answer. He says he can smell the elf when another orc says that they can't find him. Then Arondir pops out and starts shooting arrows.
Yeah, and
then
this is kind of odd because we learn later on that he's by himself. So it's just kind of odd to shoot arrows like that, but...
and then we hear a "bring him down," which is a callback from the Peter Jackson trilogy.
Which I don't mind it there because it's just a common phrase that you could say in battle, and I thought it worked there.
Yeah. And then Arondir shoots an arrow, topples down the tower. It was kind of rigged to fall down. Then he escapes and shuts the door behind him, so the orcs can't get out of the tower as the tower falls on them. And my thought was, oh wow, I hope Waldrick is okay, because Adar kind of threw him into the collapse.
Adar, yeah, so Adar, so it had a similar feel to that scene in The Return of the King, where you've got that one orc standing defiantly as a trebuchet hurls a giant rock at him.
Yeah.
And then he gets out of the way at the last second. It had that kind of feel to it, where like Adar's looking up, and Waldrick is like, "We gotta get out of here," and he's just like choke holds him, and he's like, "I'm like, what is going on?" He's gonna like throw him into the rock or something. Like,
I thought Waldrick was dead.
Yeah.
Meat, but
literally every scene Waldrick is in from like the last episode and this episode, I think he's dead. Talk about plot armor. No, I'm kidding. I really like Waldrick,
so
yeah.
and we cut to Bronwyn and the rest of the people, and they're cheering, and then we find out they're heading to the village.
Yep. So so this is actually something that I was kind of thrown off by. So if this was a possibility all along, why? Like, I don't understand why they are so they're in the watchtower, right? And they know the orcs are coming. If they could just leave the watchtower, couldn't they just keep heading in the opposite direction of the orcs? Like, I'm just kind of confused. If they could get out of the watchtower that easily and then set up in a village, just keep going. Like, why try to barricade yourself at a village? I just don't get that part. But
I guess they think that the orcs can move faster than them, so they want to find a strategic spot to hold their ground.
But then in that case, the watchtower seemed to be the best. So
I think the watchtower probably is better to defend. But anyway, let's not dwell on that.
No.
So then we cut to Isildur waking up on the boat, and he kind of goes to shovel the stables, and we see Halbrand's kind of awake too. And then Isildur goes on deck to look over the ocean to see if you can see land, and then Galadriel talks to him.
Yeah. Now, just real quick about Halbrand. Have we ever seen him sleeping?
That's a good question.
Is this
I'm
a
not sure.
thing? Like, does Sauron have a thing where it's like, he never sleeps? I mean, there's that line about the eye being ever watchful or something like that. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. It's just every scene that everyone else is sleeping in, even the scene when we first meet the Numenor.
Hey, Galadriel gets off the boat. Yeah.
Like, he's
That's
not
true.
asleep. He's up before her. He's already like had food, and he's just like sitting around waiting for her to wake up. And then in prison, he's never asleep. And then here, he's not asleep. So I don't know, just kind of interesting that we never see him. Anyway, so yeah, we get the nice little elf eyes.
Yep.
Seeing better than Numenor eyes. I always like seeing that.
Yeah. And we find out Isildur's mother drowned.
Yeah. Now this is interesting because the fact that Isildur would be so reckless on a boat after knowing his mother drowned. Kind of,
Mm-hmm.
Isildur is really digging himself deeper and deeper into my not likable category. Meanwhile, Elendil, this actor is carrying the acting of this show for me. Him and Waldrig, the two best actors in the show right now, and it's not close. I there's literally scenes here where while I was watching them, I was saying this scene would be 10 times better if Elendil just walked into it. Just his presence alone would make the scenes better.
Okay.
I really like this character and this actor. So yeah, we get. I mean, it's a kind of a weird line that he says before we find out his wife drowned. But still, he sells it. So like, anytime you can sell kind of a odd dialogue like that, I'm with it. So really like this guy.
Yep. And then we cut to Arondir, and they're in the village now, and you see Arondir trying to break the hilt, and it's kind of like Gimli trying to break the ring with his axe.
That's my first thought too. It was like, this is straight up, well, what are we waiting for? Smash! breaks his little mallet, throws it away in frustration.
So Arondir decides that, well, we're just gonna have to hide it, and he hides it. So he tells Bronwyn they can't tell you where it is. No one should know where it is, so he just hides it himself.
And we also get like we're also seeing people like preparing the village.
Well, I'm getting like Magnificent Seven vibes. Like it's the like they're training the villagers to like protect themselves.
Yeah.
Except the Magnificent Seven is just Arondir and Bronwyn. And do you think Bronwyn's a Mary Sue?
I think she's a Mary Sue? Well, here's the thing. When we get to the actual battle, I think it's clear she's not. So, what I will say though,
she slashes that orc's throat. I think the orc could have beaten her.
Yes, I think that was poorly filmed. But I think we'll get to it when we get there. But I will say that the odd part is, why is she the leader of this town's people? You know what I mean? Like, so I get
she's hot.
Well, okay, true. But like, so Waldrig was like the de facto leader prior to her like showing them that the orcs have returned. And then I guess because she was right about that, people just like start to listen to her. It could also be that she is close with Arondir, who maybe is the true de facto leader of the town, at least when it comes to military stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I that's the part to me that's odd, is that we don't get any like we got this before with Waldrig, where he's like, who made you in charge? I'll get my full rations, or something like that. And that was like 2 episodes ago. And I was like, okay, Waldrig, calm down. Like, there's like
my rations.
You guys have like 5 potatoes for like 100 people. You're not getting a whole potato yourself. I'm sorry, Waldrig. I love you, but we're not doing that. So yeah, they're preparing for battle, but Arondir and Bronwyn are not preparing for battle. They're kind of just having a romantic moment together.
Yeah. Yep, with the seeds.
Yeah, and so this is 15 minutes prior. We saw the exact same idea from Adar. So, really close together. I think there's definitely some parallels there, and we will find out more about Adar later.
Yes, and we get our first kiss of the series, I believe. Yep. And then, okay, the sun and Theo's also been put inside the tavern. That's also the...
Yeah, so this is something like I don't know when to point this out, because as we talk about this battle, it might come to it, but I just want to point this out right away. This whole idea of the women and children in the tavern, there are some men in there that are capable of fighting. I don't know how they snuck in there.
Well, they were elderly, but you wouldn't think elderly enough.
Did you see the guy who shoots the first arrow at Helm's Deep?
Oh, yeah.
That guy is older than any of these guys. All of them should be fighting. Heck, Theo should be fighting. Like Theo, like I know Bronwyn's trying to protect him, and so she gives him like this BS excuse, like, "Oh, I need you to protect everyone in the town, or all the women and children in the town in this one building." But she just wants him in the building. Like she's just telling him that to get him in there. I just thought that there's a lot of people in there that could have been fighting, and heck, if you really wanted to get down to it, the women could be shooting the bows from the rooftops.
Well,
And-
some of the women were fighting too. 'Cause
Yeah.
Bronwyn was fighting, and then Bronwyn was with. Well, I mean, we get to that point, the woman dies, but wasn't that another woman with
Yep.
her when she was trying to light the cart?
Yep.
But anyway, okay, now the sun sets, and we're all ready for battle, and then we start seeing torches coming off of the hills.
Yeah.
They start appearing. And Bronwyn has trouble lighting this cart on fire.
Yeah.
But then an orc comes, kills her friend. Then Bronwyn slashes the orc's throat
Yeah. So okay.
and
so
so torch.
You're right. So here, this is the scene you want to talk about, her being a bit of a Mary Sue. The problem with the scene is she screams and like misses or like hits his foot or just misses her initial cut. I think what should have happened here is simply she pushes him into the cart. He's on the cart. All you have to do is push him. The torch will ignite the fuel on the hay. He'll just completely get incinerated right away. And then
Yeah, okay, I have an idea. Okay, he's coming for her, and then he like steps on her dress accidentally, the orc, and then she tries to run away, and she ends up like pulling her dress, and then it's like having a carpet pulled from under you, and he goes flying back, and he lands on the cart with his torch and lights it on fire accidentally. It could be like kind of a goofy, like a Jar Jar Binks kind of success.
Yeah, and, like we've seen this kind of stuff from orcs before. Like they are not sure-footed. They kind of like, I mean, look how they even walk. They kind of shuffle around.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of being a Mary Sue, she gets a little bit lucky here with this orc. I think she gets her friend killed. She straight up gets her friend killed. So I didn't like how this scene played out. I knew that this was going to lead to the cart being lit on fire. I just thought it would have been a better way, like the way you described it, or just simply pushing him. I don't even know why there was two people there, to be honest. Like the whole thing was light the cart and then cut the rope that's holding the cart up there. Kind of weird that you need two for that. Maybe in case one gets killed randomly or like, I don't know. So it kind of felt like we just wanted a death there. I didn't actually like that death because Bronwyn kind of causes it just based on how she reacts to one orc coming up to this cart.
Yeah, and then the cart rolls away on fire, and it's trapped to kind of trap the orcs between two flames, and then they start raining arrows on them.
Yeah, now this is kind of a decent plan. It's not the best because like those flames, they're not like, and we see this with the second cart. They don't really box them in as much as we would have liked. And this is why I actually think doing the similar plan but on the tower would have been better, because that courtyard for that tower is much smaller, it seems, and way easier to actually block them in through the door. So then you really are you got a bunch of orcs trapped in the center of your tower and you're just firing arrows down. Because here we see like they start doing it and it's working decently, but the orcs kind of just like kick through a pile of debris and escape the fire.
Yeah.
And for some reason they go for the tavern.
Right away, yeah.
Like
they go for the
the women and children are in the tavern. You're getting shot at by the soldiers. Well, soldiers, put that in air quotes. But like, there's no reason to go to the tavern. Like, there's nothing in there for you. Sure, you get to like kill some people, but there's people that you could kill who are trying to kill you right there beside you. Go fight them. They have like a battering ram even. Why? Who cares about that tavern? You could literally just light it on fire.
They could have lit it on fire, yeah.
And this is actually
so
one thing I did accidentally see some people complaining about the tactics that were being used by both sides here. And I have to kind of agree, but I chalk it up to just people not, like, neither one of these groups are battle hardened, right? These orcs are a bunch of random orcs that are just kind of coming together under Adar. They don't really know what they're doing, and then the humans, they're also not used to fighting. So I'm gonna try to give them the benefit of the doubt for that.
Yeah. So that we have hand-to-hand combat, and Arondir ends up getting into a conflict with a giant orc. So it's kind of like a boss fight.
Yeah. And he loses essentially.
Yep.
Like it's a
Bronwyn-
good fight
he's-
there, and
Bronwyn saves him, so that's why that's other Mary Sue.
I see. Bronwyn saves him, so the Mary Sue. You know, she's not the one fighting though. She does kind of get the sneak up behind him, so I'll give it. Like she's gonna get hurt herself later on.
But she lives.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
this
I think
there's
it
a
was
part.
pretty
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how some of the stuff plays out. I actually like this idea of this orc taking the thing out of his eye.
And he's just bleeding all
and he's
over.
bleeding. Like this was pretty graphic, to be honest. I
It
was not
very graphic.
based on some of the previous episodes. I was expecting some very light-hearted swordsmanship here, and this was straight up like brutal. Like Arondir is just done after this. He's just exhausted. Like this isn't just waving your sword and crushing through enemies. He is like, I can't fight anymore. I'm really tired. Luckily, they've won the day.
They survived the first wave anyway, and then we're surprised to find out that some of the fighters were human. Actually,
I mean,
think the
I
majority
don't
of the
think
fighters were
I
human.
was surprised.
I wasn't either, but
was
they were
worried
the
that
villagers.
Waldred
The
was
villagers
there.
were surprised.
So the villagers, I guess, they thought that the half the village that left them were just dead. I don't think they realized that they were actually going to join the enemy and that the enemy would accept them. Upon seeing that, I do wonder if any of them had a change of heart. See, I thought there could have been something there where, like, literally, their friends left them in the tower and went away, and then their friends come back wearing armor given to them by the enemy. In that moment, you've got to be asking yourself, what are we dying for? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we even fighting these guys for if they're essentially just going to let us join them? Now, they don't know at the time the process to join them is a sacrifice. So,
We'll have to kill Theo or something.
yeah,
or
like I'm not saying that they would go through with it, but what I'm saying is in the moment, I would have liked to see some of them questioning, why are we fighting our own? Like, the fact that our own were allowed to come here means that the other side is willing to accept us. And all we want to do is be left in peace. And if the other side is going to leave us alone, then we'll do that. But we don't really get any of that. We just get some people who are like shocked and sad by it.
And then arrows start raining down, and then
so
we
it
have
was,
an
it was
orc.
a fake out.
We do have the orc. That orc talk about, like, yeah, they had to pay a toll by joining us.
But again,
They
nobody
had to
knows what that is.
And now the arrows start raining because we have the second wave coming, and they take refuge in the tavern. Bronwyn is hit,
Yes.
though, and then we have some surgery.
Now, real quick though, I just want to point out one of my least favorite lines, and it's not even a bad line, but Arondir, I think, or Bronwyn, one of them says, "Fall back to the keep."
Oh, that's a callback from Helm's Deep.
Yeah, but the problem is this is not a keep. Now I know
Or
they
fall back to the second level.
I know they tried to set this up during their big pep talk to the village by saying, "This tavern is our keep. It's our fallback point." As soon as I heard that, I was like, "No, that's dumb. It's not a keep. It's a tavern. Do not call it a keep ever again." And sure enough, fall back to the keep. God, just say fall back to the tavern, or fall back. Just say fall back. Like it's not a keep, and it makes it seem like it's a bunch of people role playing. It's not a keep. You're not soldiers. There's orcs out. Like, you know what I mean?
They're using their imagination.
That's what it felt like, and I didn't like it. I thought, no villager who's lived in that village is gonna call their tavern a keep. It's not happening. But anyway, I will try to move on from that, because even though it's not a dumb line, like we've had some dumb lines before, and this is just like a random thing, it just made me feel weird about how these characters perceive what's going on. But anyway, we get a weird scene here that, again, it's a weird way to film this. So Bronwyn is dying on a table with arrows in her. Theo and Arondir want to help her, and she says, no, go help that other guy first.
He's dead. Yeah.
He's already dead, so that's a bit of a fake out, but I like the idea. What I want, though, is I want Theo to say no. Theo legit leaves his dying mom to go help some other guy. Like, he's like, oh, okay, Mom. And she's legit bleeding out. I just felt like Theo is such a weird character. I really want this character to grow on me. And he will by the end of this. But in this scene, I was like, oh, why is Theo doing this? Like, he's gonna let his mom die to go help this other guy who is already dead, so then he just comes back to help his mom. It just felt like a weird decision for him to make. I would have liked him to talk back and say no. Like, to show this character is a little, like, kind of growing into that maybe fear and anger that we think he's dealing with.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there are people who are dead who didn't make it into the tavern from the arrow shots.
But anyway, they cauterize the wound and they use the alpharin seeds for something. We have villagers are watching this, and you have like a gasp. And I don't know if I like that, because I kind of imagine in a chaotic scene, people aren't just going to be standing around and watching this happen. They should be like preparing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm with you.
They're literally all gathered around the table watching this, and it's not really believable to me.
No, this scene is like starting with Bronwyn being carried in along with the dead guy, and then having her say, "Go help the dead guy first." That all the way up through to the end of this scene, I don't like it. So I don't even like that they even went into this tavern at all, because it's a really weird dynamic that everyone's got going on. You've got people watching. We're gonna get to a point here when Adar finally shows up. It's still strange, like.
Yeah. But then we have a death fake out, but then she's okay. But I thought it would actually be interesting if they had killed her.
So I don't want. Let me try to phrase this properly. I like this character.
I like
what
it
she
too.
is.
I like her too.
I think the actress is doing a good job at it. I know people have a problem with her because of some of her comments in the media, but I think she's doing a good job in the show, and that's all I care about. I actually thought it would have been an interesting dynamic there to see how Theo, who we're focused on between those three characters, because he's the only one that has that.
You could take away Arondir's love interest too, and then it could be like a bond between Arondir and Theo.
That's right. That's right. Because so Arondir is in love with Bronwyn, but I think that love, just the way elves are wired, I think that his love would move on to Theo, and he would try to raise him or teach him, and there'd be some really interesting dynamics there as Theo is slowly corrupted. Or I don't know if that's going to happen now based on what happens here, but like.
And it would let us know that there are some stakes, like
right, and that's the other thing that we need.
These characters you like could potentially get killed.
Yeah,
because there's no stakes for sure. There's no stakes for Galadriel or Elrond,
or Isildur or Elendil. Like they're all
not yet. They do die, but yeah.
But like,
we know
it's not
how.
here. We know it's not in this battle, and so help me God, if they kill off Elendil, I don't know what I'll do. Like that, he is such a good actor. I want him to say most of the lines in this episode. But anyway, so let's get to this. So the orcs break through the door. Everyone is surprised. No one's ready for it. Like,
like you think they should be very ready for it.
So I don't know how many bows or how many archers got into the safety here, but do you know in Helm's Deep, or not Helm's Deep, in Moria, right after Boromir says they have a cave troll, they lock the door, they fall back and get their bows out.
Yeah.
Like, why was nobody ready for this? They literally let them walk in. Now, maybe they're giving up, and this is sort of what I was talking about earlier. The townspeople maybe could have been mutinying here and saying,
We're ready to surrender.
we're ready to surrender, so we don't want to fight them. But they don't talk about it. They're literally like waiting to see if Bronwyn lives. And I'm like,
Yeah, they should be like going to Arondir, like, where the hell is that hilt? Let's get ready to surrender, things like that.
yeah. And some of them probably don't even know about the hilt, to be honest, because it's not a public thing. So people legit don't even know what's going on here. And so we get to this torture scene, kind of. So Adar wants the hilt, all right? And so Arondir doesn't want to give it up. And so Adar starts just killing people. Now, the people don't fight back. So they literally just stand there and get killed. And now this
We also do have a side cut here. We see Numenor.
That's right.
Rushing in, and I noticed the contrast that Numenor is in the sunlight.
Yep.
When we cut to them, and the village is still in the dark. So the sun, we know the sun's. If Numenor is coming, so is the sun. It's gonna.
Yeah. So they've
gonna be
almost
basically.
lasted the night, essentially. They just have to hold out for a little bit longer. But anyway, Arondir doesn't want to give up this hilt. I don't know why he is so adamant about this. He knows it's evil, but like he is willing to sacrifice the entire village. Now, if I'm a villager, I'm straight up saying, no, I surrender. I'm on your team. What's this thing I have to pay? Kill Arondir? Sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these people have no idea what's going on and are now being sacrificed by Arondir. And it's just, nobody questions it. Even after the battle, if I was a villager after this battle, I would be like, that guy was letting us die for nothing because the villagers don't know. So anyway, Theo is the one to finally, like, speak up because
they're about to kill Bronwyn, his mom,
which
yeah.
Adar is not going to, or Arondir is not going to budge, even though they're about to kill his love interest, his girlfriend. I'm not even sure what the relationship status is at this point. But either way, that should have been a point to provoke Arondir, and it doesn't. And I think that's important. I don't know if they're going to keep going with that, but it's interesting to see that. And so, yeah, Theo is like, hey, no more people are dying here. You want this stupid hilt? Here you go.
Right, and I was initially confused by this because Arondir says, I'm hiding it so no one can see it. For some reason, Theo does. But when I watched it again, you can see Theo kind of creeping.
Yeah.
And he's keeping an eye. He's watching where Arondir goes.
So there's two scenes in which Theo kind of gives me a Gollum vibe, and that's one of them. He's in the background, sitting on a rock, hunched, and when Arondir says, I'm gonna hide it, he peeks over his shoulder a little bit, and like it just has that vibe to it. And then there's another one later on in this episode. But yeah, so Theo, they basically put it in the floorboards.
Yeah, just underneath like a cobblestone on the floor. Yeah.
Now I'm curious though, can Adar not sense it? Like, I'm not sure.
I don't
what
know.
Powers.
That's
like, you
yeah,
know what I
I don't
mean?
know.
Like, so I thought he could probably sense it. So like, if they had said, "Oh, we left it at the watchtower," Adar would be like, "No, you didn't," or something. You know what I mean? Maybe he can sense it. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But once so this is so they get the sword or the hilt, and Adar leaves.
We can hear Numenor hooves.
Yes, and he goes to Waldreg and says, "I've got a task for you," and we're not really sure what that is. Meanwhile, the orcs inside the tavern are like, "Well, I guess we get to kill them now," And I'm like, is this the... See, this is the problem, is that Arondir and Theo should have negotiated that people be let go. Like, it just...
Yeah.
Like, Arondir tried. So Arondir was like, I will consider telling you where it is if you let these people go. I'm like, you're going to consider it? No, you're going to do it. But the problem is we need to make sure these people are safe first. So I just think they handled it badly. And then I don't like how... So the people are all held at knife point inside the tavern. And then upon the order being given that, oh, now we can just kill all of them, the people are able to...
Now they rally and they fight back, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in some aspects, it's a little bit believable because now they know there's no hope, and so that gives them like this last...
We might as well.
Like, you're backed into a corner. You're about to be stabbed. You might as well try to not get stabbed. But this is the kind of stuff that, like, there was people getting killed randomly in there to try to force Arondir to tell them where the sword was, and it didn't work. Like, people were just standing there getting stabbed, and no one was... Like, they were gasping, like you said, but they weren't... Like, imagine standing next to, like, your wife or your husband, and then this orc just, like, goes to stab him, and you just, like, stand there and gasp. Like, you're not gonna try to... Even if it means you die, you're not gonna try to, like, fight back in that moment. I don't know. It just seemed weird that people would just get stabbed. And then when the order was given to kill everyone, everyone's like, let's go! And then they fight, and they make it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get a nice, I guess, homage to Rohan again with the riders coming, with the sunlight at their back, which is always a nice battle tactic. And I actually thought this was really well filmed, to be honest. I thought a lot of the choreography to the fights was done well. We've kind of already commented on Bronwyn's fight, which we didn't like, but the rest of it, I actually thought it was done fairly well, like better than most shows anyway. And I know someone's going to comment on this, so I want to talk about it right away. I actually really like how Galadriel fights on her horse.
Oh.
I'm sure people are going to be upset by it, but literally, if Legolas had done this in the original trilogy, people would love it. So I think people are just nitpicking now. That lean off the horse, we saw Legolas do an impossible move to get on his horse in the first place during the Battle of the Wargs. Legolas legit like does this crazy spin flip around the horse's neck onto the horse. This literally can be done. There are people in real life that can do this that are human. So this is not even that crazy of a move to lean off your horse and dodge stuff and attack people with. Like, it's doable in real life. Like, I'm not even sure this is CGI. Someone probably did this move. So I don't want to hear people complaining about that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the fight ensues, and I mean, it's fighting. So I'd take a lot of notes, but notably, Halbrand saves Elendil, which is ironic if he is Sauron.
Yep.
Because Elendil is kind of who ends up killing Sauron in a way.
Yep.
I think in the Peter Jackson, it's clear Isildur's the one who kills him, but I believe in the lore, the actual lore, it's like Elendil and Gil-galad together kind of kill Sauron, and Isildur just kind of cuts the ring off afterwards.
Yeah.
So
if this is a prequel to Peter Jackson, it is very interesting to see that dynamic there. And I like it. I actually like the idea there because we still don't know much about Halbrand. I'm still not, even if it is Sauron, I'm not convinced it's an evil version. So I like the idea of maybe him being corrupted himself. Like, I like that to see what happens there.
Yep. And then Galadriel and Arondir exchange words like, oh, another elf. And she asks who's their leader. He points out Adar, and he tells her he can't get away with what he has, which is the hilt, we think.
Yes.
And then we have I laughed only because I know everyone else is gonna make fun of it. But we have the who is that? That is Galadriel, commander of the Northern Armies, or that is commander of the Northern Armies.
The thing is,
Galadriel.
though, and this is what I'm gonna say to people who are criticizing some of the lore changes. We've already established she is, so in world, like, you know what I mean? Like, you've already made fun of it. I'm with you. We've already made fun of her getting mutinied and all that. In world, though, this elf knows who she is, and so for him to point that out, I know it's silly, people don't want it, but like, who the heck is, like, to these townspeople, who the heck is that person? You know what I mean? Like, how else are you gonna explain who she is? Like,
Well, I know, but they keep doing that.
I know they keep doing it,
Because
but, like-
remember Isildur and Elendil talking. You've met Galadriel, Scourge of the Orcs. Who is
I know,
that?
I know.
Commander of the Northern Armies,
But-
Galadriel.
But the thing is, like, if you don't have that, then people are gonna nitpick and say, how do these people know who she is? So it's the same way that we make fun of this Queen Regent business. Like, every scene that she's in, it's the Queen Regent commands this, and I particularly don't like the way that she's called Queen Regent. But I'm not gonna knock an episode every time it's used because it's already been established. And I thought this one was a lot less in your face than the one you just pointed out, which is that is Galadriel's Scourge of the Orc. Like, that's a little too much, a little too flavory for me, but I thought this was fine. But you're right, people are definitely going to say something about it. Now, the thing with these battle scenes, and you pointed this out a little bit earlier, is that we need tension, and you can't have tension with Isildur or Elendil or Galadriel. So, as much as I like Halbrand saving Elendil there, just as a nice, potentially as a foreshadow, we need more tension with other people. And that's why I thought they could have done more with Isildur's friends, because those people might die at any moment. I don't know who they are. I don't know if they're...
I thought Antimo would die.
Yeah.
But they didn't kill him. Yeah.
Now, the part I think people should make more fun of, if they're not already, is this idea that Isildur is being held back for no reason. He then approaches the queen as if he, the stable boy, deserves to.
Also, yeah, he's a stable boy. He's in full armor, and it's even said on the boat like he's not a soldier or a seaman. He is a stable boy. Yet he's in full armor, and he's up there in the queen's company.
Yeah, like he's being held back. It's like that's the queen's guard. So she's got. Let's see. It's looking to be about 15-ish guards here. He's one of them. This is Sir Kristen Cole all over again. Okay, anyway. So he approaches the queen mid-battle, doesn't say a word. She looks over at him and is like, you can go, like, oh, you can go and fight now. And it's like, wait.
And she's like, wait, I meant go back to the stable.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Wait, where are you going, Isildur? You're a stable boy. Where'd you get that armor?
I meant you can go to the stable.
We're missing a scene where he's like, let me point out, I don't like the character Isildur. I have nothing against the actor. They're okay. I think they're okay, but the character's awful to me. Now, I would have appreciated a scene of him like scrounging up some armor and like sneaking up to this point, because
like he's actually a stable boy and he steals the armor from a dead guy mid-battle or something.
Or there's just extra armor on the ship and he just finds it and steals it or something, and like maybe his friend sees and doesn't tell. Like, I don't know, just it doesn't make sense. Why is he with the queen? If anything, it would have been a way better homage to Mary and Éowyn for him to sneak onto the battlefield like that. But they missed that chance. Also, what do you think of Elendil's helmet? So everyone else has got.
A lot of people hate that helmet, yeah. But I don't mind it.
I don't mind it. Like, I thought I would hate it upon first seeing it, but it grew on me as the battle pursued. So yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. I don't understand, though, the hierarchy of who's who. So when they address Galadriel, she's commander. Now, is that just because she's commander of the Northern Armies? Or is that because she's the commander of a company of Númenóreans? Because then Elendil is called the captain. So I don't even know who's in charge here. Like if the Numenorians lose and the orcs go, who's in charge? Who are they pointing to? Like who's actually in charge?
I guess Queen Muriel's just up there, but
in terms of like the battlefield, so you've got Captain Elendil.
I don't know.
You've got Captain Elendil, you've got Lord Halbrand, and you've got Commander Galadriel. And there's like a power struggle, which one of them is actually in charge here. Because then Galadriel is going to get her own company. So I don't even know what the deal is there. And also, why does Halbrand have to wear weird looking armor? Everyone else gets nice Numenorian armor. And Halbrand is like given, I don't know, not
Southern armor.
Where'd they get that armor? Did he make it special? That'd be cool. Yeah. We should have got a scene of him making his own armor, because then there could be more theories about how like he's basically making like magic armor because he's Sauron. But anyway, we get an interesting chase scene here. So the battle's happening, but it's basically over, and you're right. So Arondir's like, we can't let Adar get away with that object. So Galadriel, with a grin, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. I believe she kind of grins. I want to find it here. So yeah, Adar's getting away. She does. It's not a grin, but it's like let's do this. Like I'm eager to do this. I like it. I thought it was good.
People are gonna make fun of that too, because she asked who the enemy leader is. That's gonna be compared to, I want to speak to the manager. It's gonna be compared to that.
well, I mean, there's only so much you can do, because like she
just goes from place to place asking to speak to the manager.
No, so okay. The thing is, I think people, and maybe we'll do a whole video on this, people are completely missing the point on Galadriel, and it's interesting to see them both criticize that she is a Mary Sue, but also comment that she's kind of a villain. And I actually think she is kind of a villain, and I think that's deliberate, and I think it's clever.
Okay, so I heard someone else make this point, and I thought it was interesting, but she's already thousands of years old at this point, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And the idea of her her having a character arc where she's actually going to change within the series, which takes probably span over a few years because they condensed it. It's not that believable that someone who's been around for 1,000 years is going to be set in their ways. There can't really be an arc for her. There can be for someone like a Isildur, who's a human, and Theo, who's a human, and Bronwyn, who's a human. But for someone like Galadriel, who's thousands of years old, she's not going to change over the course of a year.
I disagree. I think we've seen it before with Legolas and Gimli, and we've also seen it in terms of...
It's not as drastic, though. Like Legolas was never... Well, Gimli can change because he's mortal and he doesn't have that long, but Legolas wasn't nearly as awful as Galadriel. It's not as big of a shift.
No, but what I'm saying is, I think they can have it work out where... So she's been... And they point this out in this episode, actually, in that she's kind of been corrupted in her own way. And so simply by removing that corruption could have a massive change on her character. So you're right. It's going to be a tough change to make, and to make it believable. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Like, imagine if in like 2 minutes into their journey, Legolas and Gimli are like friends. Like they need to struggle through it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I do think there's a way to pull this off that is satisfactory. Just because her character is just so obsessed with fighting this darkness, similar to how Elrond didn't realize the negative aspects of his just normal existence, in terms of not realizing that 20 years is a big deal. When Galadriel starts to realize this about like who she is, and realize the negative effect it's having on everyone around her, I think there is a way to make this change happen. I don't know how it is because her brother's already dead. Like, I don't know how we can get something really dear to her to be in jeopardy or something to change her, because we don't really, other than killing orcs and finding Sauron, she doesn't really have anything else going.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what does eventually convince her, and then we'll talk about whether or not we accept it. As for now, I do like the fact that she is not just a goody two shoes, stomping through, and she's getting praised a little too much because she is kind of a troublemaker. I mean, she did pull a dagger on Elendil 3 episodes ago. And Elendil like laughs it off, but like that's straight up psycho move. Like, she's crazy. And we kind of see that here. And this is actually a scene, they're chasing Adar, and this is a scene in which I think Elendil's presence would have been helpful to the scene. Because what ends up happening is like this really weird, I don't even know what to call it, because it's like these characters, Halbrand and Galadriel, start doing this flip-floppy thing where one will be very like they're playing like good cop, bad cop almost. And
not on purpose though.
Not on purpose, but like it's weird because they keep shifting.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's weird.
Okay, but the chase, it ends with Halbrand tripping Adar's horse.
Yeah. Daemon Targaryen shows up, and
I really just thought, how did
yeah,
Halbrand? Where did he come from? Presumably they're running away from the battlefield, and Halbrand was still back there. How did he get in front of them?
Yeah. So this is something that is troubling to me.
Unless they were running around in a circle. That's the only explanation.
So what I think potentially is, I mean, they're never going to explain this, and I don't expect them to, and I agree with you. This is a problem. The thought I had was, okay, clearly he got in front of them somehow, despite them running away from the battle. There could be that he just knows the land better and knows where that road leads, and just gets extremely lucky that they stay on the path. It's definitely a problem. I like the fact that he does a not very honorable move in tripping the horse, because
the horse is okay. They hit the point of showing that.
Yeah, I don't know if they should have done that. I like this idea of him just.
Nerdrotic was making fun of that. He said they had to make sure they had to waste a shot telling everyone the horse is okay, just so they don't upset everyone.
Oh, this coming from the guy that's praising Game of Thrones for having the exact same shot in it and then have no reaction. Literally, the crowd cheers the illegal move, and the father of the guy that just got tripped looks at the king and doesn't say a word. And then his own daughter and that person's brother goes and praises Daemon Targaryen. Give me a break. That scene is terrible, and this scene's done better. And even though it doesn't make sense where he came from, it's a better scene because the reactions, Halbrand is potentially a villain. This move kind of shows that because it's not an honorable move. And that's part of this feeding into this theory about him being a bad guy. Because you never see a good guy doing a move like that.
But he tripped him so perfectly that the horse is okay. It's still honorable.
Yeah, I suppose. I particularly, I agree. I didn't like the horse getting up afterwards. You're right. They waste an entire 2 seconds of film with this horse. I'm watching it right now. The horse gets up and just wanders off and eats some grass.
Yeah.
And Adar's done. He's just crawling on the ground.
Yeah, and Halbrand stabs Adar's hand as he goes for the hilt.
Now, Adar has a hand that's covered with a mail glove, and then he's got one hand free. I thought that was interesting. I don't know have we talked about that before? I think we've seen it before. I just don't know if we've gone into detail about what we think that means.
No, I haven't thought about that.
So, he's got his left hand gloved. Now, that's the hand that had the ring on it, right? In the future. of Sauron, and then that gets cut off. Is that maybe just like symbolism there, or?
I don't know.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. He's got one good hand and one hand that's like just metal glove, and I wonder if there's actually a hand there or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he gets his hand stabbed, which again, like they're not shying away from making this stuff pretty harsh. Like most shows and movies, you would just come over there and like step on his hand and maybe like put your sword at his like stomach or throat. Here, we straight up stab the guy's hand. And then
to the ground.
Yeah, to the ground, like pinning him to the ground so he can't even reach his own sword, which I guess do we talk about this now? Or do we wait? We'll wait.
About what? Talk about what? How he asks Adar if he remembers him, or?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about it now. Okay, so
Yeah,
do you
okay,
do you
how-
remember me? What do we think about
Adar-
that? I know. I
Adar
think I know what you
taunts
think
him,
about
like,
it.
did I kill a wife or a girlfriend, or did I kill a child? Something like that.
Yeah.
And Halbrand never answers, but later in the, because we haven't revealed it yet, but later, well, maybe we should save it because that hasn't been revealed.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Do we reveal it yet or not? I think we kind of have to here.
Okay, well, later in the episode, we do find out Adar claims to have killed Sauron,
Yeah.
and so Halbrand asking, "Do you remember me?" If he is Sauron, they would know each other from before, and that's what he's saying. Do you remember me? Because he's Sauron.
So yeah, I figured that's where your theory was headed.
Yeah.
I am still not. I mean, I can see that being a clever way to hint at it. I'm just not convinced yet. And if it is Adar, perhaps his face has changed. So maybe, or sorry, if it is Sauron, perhaps Adar doesn't recognize him because his face has changed.
Well, Sauron regenerates. He's like the Doctor. He
But the
comes
Doctor
back
always
in
has a
from-
different face.
So does Sauron.
Yeah.
That's why Sauron doesn't recognize Sauron.
Yeah, so maybe that explains it. The other option is that Sauron is in the like that he's got his little coat of arms or whatever that is, like a necklace. It's now like on his armor. It's like a pouch on his armor. Maybe that somehow like manifests him into Sauron eventually. I'm not really sure, but I don't actually think Adar knows him, and so
Well, he doesn't recognize.
yeah, I don't think he does recognize him. So
No, he doesn't for
Yeah.
sure. But he is. It doesn't mean he's not Sauron.
no, it doesn't.
In fact, if he was just some human, maybe Adar would have recognized him. Adar's
Oh.
not thinking about this.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Because, I mean, Adar doesn't know who this guy is exactly, but he maybe should, because this is the heir to the Southern Lands, where Adar would have fought a battle or fought a wealthy town. I'm surprised he doesn't remember, like, the richest person in the town.
Yeah, because he's Sauron.
And so yeah, and so this is where we get this whole, like, so Halbrand is about to stab this guy. I think
Galadriel stops him.
Galadriel stops him. I think Elendil, now I know they're really far from the battle, which is why I particularly don't like the chase scene that much. I would much rather have it that they stop him pretty close to the battle so Elendil can come up and intervene here. I don't like the back and forth because then it, like, this doesn't even make sense for Galadriel. I know she wants to know where Sauron is, but literally she could say, "Don't kill him yet. Let me just ask him where Sauron, then we'll kill him." Like, instead she's like, "No, we must take him back to the village." I don't get that. Like,
Well, she just wants to interrogate him. Yeah.
right, but you can do it right here. She loves killing orcs. Like, that's her whole thing. And she's gonna she's not gonna kill this one. Like, let's just torture him right here. But no, we've got to stop Halbrand from killing this guy. I would have liked Elendil to do it, because Elendil doing it allows both of them to feel like they want to kill this guy and not constantly flip-flop between anger and being goody two-shoes. So Elendil showing up, because Elendil is goody two-shoes, he's awesome. He would just show up and say, "No, we don't kill unarmed prisoners," or whatever, or something. And and basically saying like Numenor will not accept this kind
He must stand trial.
Well, maybe not that, or maybe he can show up and say enough blood has been spilt on his account.
Not the Jedi way.
Enough blood has been spilt.
No.
Let's banish him
And
to
then,
the.
and then Galadriel can be like, no, I need him. And Halbrand can go to kill him, and we can slice off Halbrand's hand or something. I don't know.
Wow, we've really made a really weird twist on this show. I personally wouldn't like the flip-flop. I think Elendil fixes all of that. Just having him be the one to both stop Halbrand and Galadriel allows both of them to maintain their level of anger towards this character without making it feel a little bit cheap. Because literally, in the next scene, we're gonna see that. Or well, I guess 2 scenes, because we got an in-between scene where we find out that Galadriel is going to lead a company to chase down the remaining orcs.
Sure.
So yeah, so we find out that they're going to chase down the remaining orcs.
Isildur and Valandir are going to go with him.
Yeah, Isildur gets involved in that. I guess he proved himself in battle. His other friend is not going to go.
He said he's had enough fighting for a lifetime.
Yeah, which I kind of like that idea, because too often we get, like, so Gimli and Legolas, I love them. I love those characters. They are so eager to kill things that it's always nice to have a character that's not loving killing things, like Gandalf. Gandalf doesn't like killing things. And he even says to Frodo, like, when Frodo's kind of upset, they're in Moria, and he's like, it's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him. And Gandalf has a beautiful speech about the fact that it was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. I think it's always nice to have characters that bring us down from just murdering orcs and be like, look, we need to remember that we want to keep our humanity here. And like, look at Galadriel. Nobody likes her. Why? She's a murderous psychopath. And I think it's refreshing to see characters like this guy stand up to war-hungry people and say, look, that's enough battle for me. I don't like killing. Like, it was a necessity, but I don't want to go off and do it more. So yeah, I like this scene. It's kind of weird that Isildur gets on the company, but it's just kind of his whole progression to this point is weird. So I'm fine with him actually being a soldier now, and instead of doing this weird I think the stable thing was almost a joke. Like they almost told him that as a joke, and it was never real. Like, okay, we're not gonna have just a random stable boy on this journey. Like, he's also gonna fight, but we're not gonna tell him.
But yeah, okay, so Galadriel finally interrogates Adar in one of those huts, and he's tied up. And we find out, I didn't take a lot of notes, but Adar, we find out he's one of the original orcs. Like,
yes.
an elf who was twisted by Morgoth. And that might be why, I mean, we don't quite know how orcs come to be, but maybe they come from, like, he's like a queen orc, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
in the sense of an ant, or like the Zerg, like he's the overmind of the orcs or something.
Yeah, and he like, it's not in the same way. Like, it's not like the orcs are mindless. It's more like, yeah, like they will follow him. It's almost like a blood oath, like, to this guy, where they literally have to do whatever he says, even if it means like killing themselves. Because essentially, he claims that he was upset with Sauron, who kept asking him to sacrifice his own children.
Yeah.
And Sauron was just too weak to, like, handle the magic, and so it never worked out. I also think it was interesting, I don't know if you picked up on this, every single shot in this interrogation is on an angle. So the camera is always tilted about 45 degrees no matter who's talking. Normally when you do this, you're looking at the tilt to mean like they are corrupted, and then a straight shot to be like they're not corrupted. Nobody is uncorrupted, not even Halbrand when Halbrand enters. So everyone is screwed up here. So this is something that I think people, including George R.R. Martin, talked about, in that is it just to just massacre orcs? And here we get, and this is something that I think people are not going to talk enough about. We actually get a very heartfelt moment here from a potential orc. I mean, it's kind of like they're the first generation of orcs, I guess, the Uruks. He is really upset.
Uruk is actually just the black speech word for orc. It's the same thing,
But
actually.
he plays a little bit of a pronoun game and says, we prefer Uruk.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of fun. But he's upset. Like, he just wants a place to have his own. Now, they go about it the wrong way. I'm not justifying the orcs killing these people. But what I'm saying is, it's not like they have no feelings. And he even points out that, like, they all are independent creatures. They all have names, and they all just want to live. And we need to land for our own. It's not enough yet, but I can see how you build upon this to gain sympathy, that like these aren't just like, it's like any animal. Like, you're not going to just go around slaughtering animals. Like, that's just not nice. Same here. These are a group of people. Perhaps they are more animal than people. It's hard to tell where in the evolutionary chain they are. Like, are they closer to humans or are they closer to animals? I don't know. But anyway, I can still sympathize with the fact that we shouldn't just be killing these people or making them into slaves. These orcs, they do deserve a spot of their own, and it's not right to just go off and kill them. And this is where I think it's interesting, because right after we get this heartfelt moment from Adar, we find out Galadriel just wants to go and hunt down and slaughter as many orcs. She even says as much, like, I'm going to kill every single orc. That is something the villain would say.
And I'm gonna save you for last. Like,
she straight up goes villain here. She straight up does a villain speech.
She vows genocide.
Yeah, she's vowing genocide. So I think people aren't going to talk about that enough. They're going to skip over the fact that the showrunners have clearly defined this character to be a sort of villain. She is not the hero.
And it made me wonder too. Actually, just to say, Adar killed Sauron because he was killing too many orcs. At least he claims he killed Sauron. Galadriel says she doesn't believe him.
Right.
But it's because he is killing too many orcs in pursuit of his experiments with the unseen world. And we saw in the first episode, like, orcs that were kind of like mummified in that.
That's right. That's right.
But here's the thing. I think because Adar does not know Galadriel went north and she's been to that castle, so we know he's telling the truth about stuff, right? Like, unless he's mixing lies in with the truth.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But it seems like other statements he's making in this statement are verifiably true, and Galadriel knows this. So far he's credible, and there's no reason to not believe him that he says he killed Sauron. He very well may have, and that's why I say maybe Halbrand asking Adar if he remembers him, it comes from that, and also why Halbrand's like, you don't know what he did, and why he's so pissed off at him.
Yeah, he killed me before. I'm Sauron.
I wasted a whole regeneration on this guy.
Yeah, I only get 7. Or what, how much does the doctor get? 9?
It was originally 13.
13.
I think it's unlimited now.
Yeah, it's unlimited now. They broke the time-space continuum or whatever. Timey-wimey stuff is what they would go with.
Adar just wants to give orcs a home, so he's like giving them a promised land. So this is almost biblical. It's almost biblical.
So I was literally thinking the same thing.
Adar's Moses.
Yeah, I was literally thinking the same thing. The orcs are the persecuted Jews, and the elves are the Nazis.
or the Egyptians. It depends when you're what timeline you're looking at.
So yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, and I thought it was interesting that in the scene where we're getting sympathy for the orcs, Galadriel doubled down and says, no, I hate orc scum. I'm going to kill all of you. And so I think it's pretty obvious at this point.
This was the other thing I thought. Like, maybe she's pissed off because if he did kill Sauron, she's deprived her of her revenge.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we get a character that cannot let this go. And this is why I think there is a way to bring her back. It's going to be difficult, because essentially the idea that I think you're getting at, and so is a lot of people, let's say that Galadriel finds Sauron, and even in this twisted lore, she kills him. That's not going to satiate her. Like, she's so far gone at this point, she will not even believe that she's killed Sauron. Like, she is so obsessed that she can't complete the task. And I think that's what's got to ultimately be her undoing, because she needs to realize that there is no coming back from this for her if she doesn't let it go now. And that's essentially where they're going to have to go with this character. I don't know how they're going to get there, but like, she'll never be done. She will always see Sauron in some capacity, whether it be just some random person in a town that's misbehaving. Like, she needs there to be a Sauron for her to kill, to bring about vengeance for her brother. Like, that's all she cares about. So she's really far gone, and I think it's obvious now that she is kind of a villain, or at least she's not the hero. I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah, then how she basically goes to kill Adar, and
Yep.
Halbrand stops her, and she even does nick his neck. You can see his neck
Yep.
bleeding.
Now, I thought, so this is where I guess we'll do a bit of a reveal. So she does nick his neck, and she kind of strokes it a bit with the blade. Like, she causes a cut. Like, she does.
Yeah.
She did that deliberately. We know how skilled she is with a blade, so it's not like, it's not like she's just like made a mistake. She knows what she's doing there. But there's blood. There is Adar blood on her blade, and she's eventually going to wipe it on the cloth that is covering up the sword. Now, I was worried in that moment.
I didn't think about that. Okay.
Yeah, so in that moment, she's wiping Adar's blood on
That would have
the...
ignited the sword if it was indeed there.
And it
yeah.
doesn't. And that's where we get... that's where we get the reveal that there's been a bit of a switcheroo here by someone. And we get this final... Just before we get there, we get this final moment. Adar looking over at Halbrand and saying,
Who are you?
Who are you? And him again not responding. That's twice he's been asked, Who are you? And he won't answer.
It's because he's Sauron.
Yeah. And maybe, I guess, Halbrand...
Or he could be like I don't know, like the Witch King or something. I don't know how you do that. The Witch King wouldn't exist yet, but
No.
something like that.
Well, because the Witch King is a corrupted man. Now, you're right. This can't be the Witch King, but this could be like a first iteration of a magic sort of takeover of a human. In that,
Yeah, but so it could be you don't know what he did. It could be you killed Sauron. I like Sauron. Not you killed me. I am Sauron.
yeah.
It could have been something like that.
So I still, like I said, I'm still not 100% convinced it's Halbrand as being Sauron. My money is still a little bit going in the favor of the Meteor Man. But there's a lot in this episode that definitely Halbrand has some sketchy past.
Yeah.
And the fact that Galadriel hears Halbrand talking to Adar, like when they're in the forest. And so she hears him ask, do you know me? She doesn't ever follow that up with like, oh, did you fight him in battle before or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't follow up with a question of her own. She's just so preoccupied with like putting together a company to go off and kill more orcs. And then we get, like, right before that, we get the scene on this log. The two of them, Galadriel and Halbrand, are sitting there, and they're both like, thanks for like pulling me back to the side of good. This is where I think Elendil would have made both of them coming back better, because neither one of them, I feel like neither one of them have the capability to do so. I think Elendil is one of the few people who could have come into this scene. It makes sense, and for him to say, no, don't kill him, to both of them. And then both of them can be sitting here about how, instead of thanking each other, they could be sitting here and both saying, like, we need to be careful that we don't go too far, or something like that. Like, they don't need to be thanking each other. Elendil could have been the voice of reason for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get I don't know. There's like this weird. It's like a weird celebration scene. I mean, I know they just won a battle, but like this scene fails for me because
Well,
this.
Halbrand's summoned by the queen. Yeah.
Well, so like this. Yeah. So there's a big celebration. The townspeople are like, "Yay, we did it!" Do you remember the scene in Return of the King? We're with the Rohirrim. We're in their great hall. It is not like super celebratory. It's kind of like
Hail the victorious.
yeah, like there's a revenance there.
It's like a funeral vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like woohoo, we did it. And like literally, you killed your own people at night, and then you guys were like sacrificing yourself for the hilt of a random sword, and now most of you are dead. I would be upset, and I'd be upset with Arondir. Like
Yeah.
Arondir led us astray. He straight up like was gonna let us all die to save that stupid sword.
Yeah.
And then Bronwyn was brought before the Queen Regent because she's the town's leader now. And then the Queen introduces Bronwyn to Halbrand, and is like, "This is Lord Halbrand of the Southern Lands," and then Bronwyn's like, "You're the king that was promised." And I just, what? This is just such a weird way to do it for me.
And then he says that he is. Yes. And
But
then
we get a
all hail-
close up of
all
his little
all
necklace.
hail. Yeah, she sees the little crest thing, and she's like, "Oh, you're the king that was promised." And then you have an all hail to the true king of the Southlands.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's Sauronish, because he's the king of the Southlands.
I like how you and I are on
King's
different. I like that we don't agree 100% on this, because then we can both kind of point out where, like, I particularly think some of the aspects of the Meteor Man make it clear that he shares similar magic traits with Sauron. You're pointing out all these like little nods to what people would call Sauron if he were there, and the fact that they're saying it to Halbrand is showing us that Halbrand is in fact Sauron. So I like that we can both we have a little bit of debate there. Yeah, I will agree. Like, this scene is just weird to me, and so yeah, there's definitely something odd about this, because Halbrand even like takes a minute, right? Like you're the king that was promised, and then he like looks down away, and he's like thinking. He's like, "Yes, I am." Which
yeah.
Which imagine if that's how Aragorn.
Even I think there's no way he is. He even says on the raft that he just killed someone and took it, basically. And he said, "Yeah, just give it." He says, "Crown someone else. You can just take this crest, give it to someone else.
Yeah,
and crown him instead."
give it to Bronwyn. Like, if we have already picked Bronwyn in like this weird town democracy, let's just give it to Bronwyn. Bronwyn is the Queen Regent of the Southern Lands. But imagine if in Fellowship, when they're at the Council of Elrond and they're all sitting around, and Aragorn is telling Boromir that, you know, we can't use the ring, and then Boromir's like, "What would a mere ranger know?" And then Legolas stands up and is like, "That is Aragorn. He is the heir to the throne of Gondor. You owe him your allegiance." And then Aragorn just looks at the camera and goes, "Yes, I am." Like, what? That's so weird. We had such a nice reluctant hero going here, and the turn for him, it's just I know he kind of already agreed to this, but just I would have liked more reluctance here, where he would be like, "Don't call me that," or something. Like, I'm just Halbrand.
Like, let's not make a big deal out of
Yeah.
it.
Like, I know the people all want it to be a big deal, but that's why it makes it so much better for him to be reluctant to accept it, except if he's Sauron, which is kind of going to your point, where he's like, "Well, this is what I wanted all along. It was all a ploy to tell people I was a reluctant hero so that they would make me the king, and that's how I become Sauron." Like, it's a weird plan, you have to admit. If this is Sauron, he's definitely kind of making this up as he goes. Because, like, he tried his hardest to not be here. He was like, "I am never going back." And they're like, "Yes, you are." He's like, "Fine, I'll go be Sauron." I would have just been a blacksmith.
I just want to be a blacksmith.
I just want to be a
Galadriel like provoked me into becoming Sauron again,
Yeah.
unwittingly.
Well,
Just
like imagine. So if he is,
Gil-galad.
so if he is Sauron, he's got these powers, right? Imagine he is just a blacksmith on Numenor. He could have made them like armor better than the elves, and then the Numenorians would be able to like actually fight the elves, and it'd be an interesting fight there. But instead, they're like, "No,
Well,
you're going back."
You know what? That's you're going into the actual lore too, though, because that's actually kind of so in the in one of the things that Tolkien wrote. So Sauron is on Numenor, and he's counseling Pharazôn, who's now the king, and he convinces Pharazôn to attack Valinor. And that's why the Numenor gets destroyed.
Wow, I literally just wrote Tolkien off the cuff.
So maybe he is making the Numenorians sweet armor so they can go attack the elves.
Maybe that was his plan, but then the showrunners are like, no, let's change his lore up. The Numenorians don't let him make armor for them. They send him back to Middle Earth. Yeah.
Or I did think that they could, like they're not gonna kill Adar. They could, maybe the Numenorians do take Adar back to Numenor.
And so he kind of takes that role. Yeah.
And they give character traits from the original Sauron to Adar in the series.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see them switching it up. We've seen this before with Peter Jackson. He switches up characters, especially with Tom Bombadil. We've gone over this 100 times already, but you know, people wanted Tom Bombadil in it. But a lot of that character traits and the dialogue you get from Treebeard. So, you know, to me, it's enough to make that work. Here, yeah, if you bring back Adar or somebody who's able to carry on that storyline and at least kind of embody what that was about, I think it'll work. But yeah, so we get the all hail King Halbrand. We get Galadriel giving the sword back to Arondir and saying,
we see Theo moping.
So this is the second scene in this where Theo is crouched on a rock and he looks over his shoulder at the camera that's looking at him, like, or at least towards the camera. He's not like breaking the fourth wall or anything. He's just looking towards the camera, and it's got this creep to it where it's like he's clearly obsessed with this sword. Which I like. I like this idea. He's kind of shaking a little bit too. He's like upset. And then this is where I actually like this kind of explanation from Theo about the about what it's like to feel that sword. Because it's similar
like
to when Frodo
ring.
talks about it. Yeah.
They've turned it into the ring.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll come back to it. I need something I had a thought of. I remember I didn't write it down.
Okay, well, we can come back to it. In the meantime, I'll just keep going with. So Theo is sitting there on the rock. Arondir comes up to him. So this is like the dynamic you and I said we would have liked to see. Bronwyn's dead. Arondir's here consoling Theo if Bronwyn were dead. And I think it's a really interesting storyline to see this elf look after this human that's just some kid, but it's the kid of the person that he loved. Anyway, this also to me showed me that this was definitely not the sword. Theo does not feel good about sitting here. Like, the sword would have made him feel powerful again, like he says, and yet he doesn't even react to it until it's placed in his hand, and then he's like, something's wrong. I would have liked it to be a bit more obvious, because like, the way they shoot this is they have these close-ups on Theo and Arondir. We don't get a hint that the sword is near Theo, even though we know it. I would have liked a shot to see the sword like basically sitting beside him and Theo not even knowing, because it's not the sword. Like, he's not even sensing it nearby. And that's when you get this whole idea of you need to let go of this hold over you. Theo asks how. So Arondir's like, here's what you're going to do. You're going to be the one to give this sword to someone from Numenor and tell him to drop it into the middle of the ocean, which is...
Well, there's a callback here, because he says, let us be rid of it.
You're right.
Sam says that.
You're
yes.
right. I don't get all of them.
And
That's a good
actually,
catch.
I remembered what I was thinking about before. So there's another line when Sam says to Frodo, I think it's to Frodo, "Can't you hear yourself? Do you know what you sound like?"
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
You can edit that in, have some Galadriel lines, and then have Sam say that to her.
Oh, I should. I will. Yeah. When she's saying, "I'm gonna kill all the orcs," something like that.
Then, "Can't you hear yourself? Do you know what you sound like?"
You know what's funny? Someone should do this. Maybe I'll do this or get a friend of mine to do it. In the place of all of these lines that are ripped from Peter Jackson, edit that scene into the episode.
With the actual line.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
That's a kind of an interesting idea. But I like this idea of how to get rid of it. This is actually a meme that I've seen people talk about from just inquisitive minds who have seen the films but haven't read the books. The idea being, could you take the ring and throw it into the middle of the ocean?
Yes.
And it's similar to the idea, could you just ride the eagles or any of these kind of theories? The problem is that the ring corrupts, and the ring is able to in some ways compel you to do things, which is how it's able to get Gollum to lose it, essentially. So Gollum is obsessed with his ring. It's not even believable he would ever lose it, but the ring is able to make you, for a split second, place it down somewhere, forget where you put it, and that is how it escapes its wearers. And that's how it's trying to get back to Sauron. Now, this isn't the ring, but the idea is the same. It's like, here, we'll just drop this sword into the middle of the ocean. Well, we've seen large animals in the ocean. They essentially could also be corrupted and kind of bring it back towards shore, and that's sort of the idea with the ring as well.
And ends up on the tentacle of the Watcher, basically.
And you know, the ring could try to get itself on, the sword could try to get itself closer and closer to shore, and eventually it might get washed on shore. That's just how it would work. But it's a good idea for these two because they don't know any better. And it's also a good idea for fans to think about that because the ocean is very big. You would think it'd be safe there, and it would be for maybe hundreds or thousands of years, but eventually you're just kicking the bucket down the road. You're not actually solving the problem. You're just making it a problem for future generations, which is another idea that Tolkien likes to tap into, particularly dealing with the world wars. But anyway, this is where we get Theo knowing it's not the sword because he's not feeling anything. I would have liked a bit more of this, like I said, during their discussion, but he knows right away.
And it's a little goofy because you would think you could tell that it's not a hilt, it's a hatchet.
I would have liked it to be a broken hilt of a sword.
Just
not
some
a hatchet.
other hilt, a fake hilt.
Or Adar's. So Adar doesn't have his sword anymore. Have it be his. Maybe he broke his sword somewhere. Have it be that. That'd be kind of interesting.
Just some other broken sword that isn't the right one.
Because Adar's sword actually kind of looks like the sword that Aragorn has, and so it would almost be interesting to see maybe Halbrand later on reforge it to be used or something. I don't know. But instead, we get the fake out with a hatchet,
and we find out that Waldrick has the hilt.
That's right.
So we cut to
Waldrick is Sauron.
He activates the swords and he stabs it into the key because it's supposed to be a key, right? Arondir says that the sword's
yeah. So he stabs it into. Okay, you explain this. This is so weird to me, but you explain this.
he stabs it into the keyhole and he turns the key, and it releases the dam that causes the water to flood out. It made me think releasing the river is kind of a callback. They don't quote that, but then we cut back to Isildur and Elendil talking.
Now, these two. So this is again, Elendil, Lloyd Owen, I think is the guy's name. He's carrying this, and the thing is, There's
Well,
a
him being good with a horse like that is a callback to Aragorn.
yes,
who
yes,
is
straight up. This guy is the new Aragorn. It's not Halbrand is some weird sketchy dude. This is Aragorn. Now the thing is, his son is asking him like, "How did you learn this?" But we know his son has never finished his training in any profession. The son has no business asking how anyone's learned anything. You just finish your training. Go do what you said you're gonna do. Stop getting kicked out of school. But I do like this idea that his mother.
Well, I thought. Okay, I wrote a note here. I thought that was. I mouthed the words before he even said it. You know.
Yeah.
It was just a little too predictable.
It is predictable, but I do like that we're getting some sadness here from Elendil.
Because Isildur is like, "How'd you learn this?" I said, "Your mother," before Elendil even said it was your mother. So I'm with you on that. I actually think it would have been funnier for him to say, "You would have learned this if you would have completed your training as a stable master or something like that." But yeah, you're right. It's a bit too predictable, but I do like this idea that that there's some sadness there with Elendil. Like we haven't had that before, and they're bonding over someone they lost. They're both close to, yeah.
Now the problem is we haven't seen her in a while, but his daughter doesn't have her father around now, and so she might start, getting busy with.
But she has her boyfriend though.
Her boyfriend is straight up evil. Well, he's not evil. He's just a teenage boy with a teenage boy's wants and needs. So he literally would sell his own father to an orc to sleep with her. That's basically the vibe I get from him. So I'm fine with that characterization. It's just it's comedy to me. Like he legit was a terrorist. He blew up 2 ships to sleep with her.
It's so bad.
So that's what's going on there. Meanwhile, we get this. So this episode is going to end with this flood. So I guess we can kind of say that right here. We get no Harfoots. We get no mainland Numenor. We get no elves other than
and the dwarves.
And we get no dwarves. So the pacing is
this entire episode was Southlanders and Numenor.
Yeah. So this is something I think will be criticized, and rightfully so. The pacing of this show could have had some battles like this earlier, because this battle took all night. So you could have had this happening on multiple episodes, but instead they throw it all in here. And in the meantime, people who aren't like obsessed with the show, they're gonna forget even like what's going on with the Harfoots. We've had very minimal Harfoot stuff, which I like.
We've had 2 episodes without Harfoot stuff now.
And then 1 episode with barely any Harfoot stuff.
And we've had 2 episodes without dwarf elf stuff.
That's right. In fact, we started the show with no dwarf stuff.
Yeah. But we have not had an episode without Galadriel.
That's right. Yep. Now, I thought we might have seen that this episode because she was on a boat, but I guess they got here, and that's another problem that I think people are going to have. They are sailing from Numenor, and they land and ride to this town.
It's not close, yeah.
For no reason. Like, why did they come to this town? Who told them to go?
Well, no. Halbrand. There is a scene where Halbrand says that they're gonna go to Austerlitz next.
Oh, you're right. How did he know that? He's Sauron. You're right.
Because he would know that they're gonna go there, because that's where that key I made is.
Yeah, he straight up knows what's there. He straight up knows, and he probably knows that the sword that they picked up is not the sword, because he can sense it. And he's like, okay, so the orcs still have the key. They're probably about to turn the key right now. And everything's about to... I mean, I don't even know how to explain this scene, because essentially...
And I have more questions about this king who was promised. Who promised this king? Did Sauron promise this king?
Yeah.
Like, or Morgoth, 1,000 years ago, Morgoth told us there's going to be a king that's going to come back and lead you or something. I don't know.
Also, is it really a king that was promised if it's just the heir to the throne? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there ever really was a king there. I'm not sure.
But didn't they kind of explain that, like, that necklace is the king's, like...
It's like the royal
banner,
seal.
the
or
royal
something.
seal. So like he's just straight up the heir. Like to me, that's not enough of a king that was promised or a prince that was promised, because it's already just a line of succession.
Yeah.
Now Halbrand says it's not. He's not really that person. So there's that. Halbrand is just sketchy.
Yeah. But anyway, we find out those tunnels and trenches were for the water.
Yeah.
It wasn't just so orcs can move, not in the daylight.
Yeah.
was
So
for-
it explains the purpose. Like people were complaining about why are these
like,
orcs doing this.
What's the point of this?
They weren't
Yes,
digging
there's a-
to look
there's
for
a
the
reason.
sword. They were digging a trench for the water to get to this mountain or this volcano.
Yeah. Yeah, we get a view of Mount Doom, and we see that the water, as it comes out, it kind of ignites Mount Doom, sets it off.
Yeah, I'm fine with this
And-
magic. It's magic, right? Like, people are gonna say, why does it explode? Why does water going into a volcano explode the volcano? Magic.
Sure.
I'm fine with it. I think it's fine. I think it works.
And then the orc prisoners rally, and
Yep.
it's kind of a chaotic scene. And one thought I had was, it made me think of Pompeii.
Yeah, it definitely
And-
has that vibe to it.
Pompeii is the toxic gases that really kill people. So this isn't just flames.
No.
There should be toxic gas here. Everyone should be.
Well,
caught.
like that's what I thought was coming at them. So I'm with you on
So-
that. So I thought like the toxic
This
gas
isn't-
is like a
this
wall.
theoretically isn't survivable. So this
Well,
is a
they
big
have to
problem.
they have to leave. Like they're not that close. Like they're close, but they're not like at the
But
base
no,
of the
but-
mountain like
But
Pompeii was.
There is toxic gas clouds coming. Like you kind of see like the rolling smoke.
Yeah.
And then Galadriel is even caught in it at the end.
Galadriel. So this is weird to me. This is why this whole scene doesn't make much sense to me. So I'm fine with the water, but when stuff starts exploding, people are like not running away. They're running around the town. Like you literally see people running like towards the volcano. Like
It's just chaos. Yeah. There's people
Galadriel
around.
stands there and is essentially like, I accept my fate. Like she just closes her eyes and like gets covered by the wall of toxic clouds. You got people running into houses. These houses are not airtight. They're gonna get like they're just done.
Yeah.
My guess is not very many people survive that, but
But somehow we know Isildur and Elendil and Galadriel survive for sure.
well, Isildur and Elendil are not.
Or they're further away.
They're further away, and they have a horse. I'm
Mm.
okay with them getting out. Galadriel, I guess she's an elf, so that's
They
how
could
she,
they could kill everyone off then. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll do that.
like.
And-
I'm fine with everyone dying except for, I guess Halbrand, because we need him to be Sauron is what you want. So Halbrand can't
he,
die.
he can just get reincarnated.
Yeah. So you need Isildur to live, Elendil to live, and Galadriel to live. Everyone else can die, and that would be wow. Like that, the show would then be really like.
That's red wedding stuff.
Yeah, like literally, you're killing off. You've introduced all these characters, and you're killing them all off in one go, including Theo and Bronwyn, and maybe Arondir, and the Queen Regent. Like if that's what happens, that's really bold. So we're gonna have to stay tuned to see what happens there. But yeah, it's this ending makes it seem like there's a lot of death. And again, I really hope we don't have like a celebratory, like, yay, we survived it. And like, there's like 5 people. Like, stop celebrating every time something happens. You can have a moment to like pay respect to the deceased warriors. Like you know what I mean? I don't know. There's something missing about it that Peter Jackson was able to capture in any of his post-battle scenes where, yes, it was a victory, but at what cost kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a celebration, but it's like a solemn
Yeah,
celebration.
yeah, and I don't get that same emotion here, and I wish they could tap into that a little bit more. But that is how this episode ends with a bang, like a literal bang, as this volcano explodes and rains down ash and debris.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of how this fits in with all the other episodes, I really do wish the pacing of the entire series was a bit better. There was 2-ish episodes that I thought
I do
not
think,
enough happened.
I do think Adar is a very interesting villain.
Me too. I don't even see him as a true villain, and that's why it makes him.
He's an extremely interesting character. And
Yeah. It will be a shame. It will be a shame if he is dead. Because I agree.
I think he is I mean, I know you like Elendil, but like he is kind of just a good hero. Adar is like a very complex and very interesting villain.
You're right, and that's what people like these days. Like, I don't think if you made something like Lord of the Rings today, people would complain that Aragorn is too much of a hero. Like, he doesn't have enough flaws. Which is why I like Elendil kind of embodying that. But I also like Halbrand, Galadriel, and Adar, and Theo embodying this grayish area.
And that actually made me think more. Like, you hear Galadriel mention who Adar is, like he's one of these original. Like, that's a sympathetic
That is.
story.
He was tortured into what he was. Like, that's not his fault.
You should feel bad for what happened to Adar, and yet Galadriel wants to just kill him.
Like, Galadriel literally does not care that he was tortured into this. She's just like, I will kill all of you. Like, Galadriel straight up gives a villain speech here, and I think that is good for the show.
Like we would like a normal reaction is actually probably to like feel sympathy for Adar's character.
That is why I think Elendil would have been better in that scene, to be the one to pull both of them back, because both of them want him dead, and Galadriel straight up is corrupted. So Adar even points this out, saying that I am not the only corrupt elf here. Like, you are so corrupted by vengeance that you are doing exactly what a corrupt elf would do. Just you're just directing it towards orcs. It's how Sauron tried to direct our corruption towards other elves and humans and whatnot. So Galadriel is straight up a corrupt potential villain at this point. Like, she's not even gray. That's what like Halbrand is at least kind of grayish. Like, he's sometimes good, sometimes we're like he's kind of sketchy. But Galadriel is straight up doing villain stuff now. And I think it's healthy for the show, because it really does make people question their initial thoughts on the character. They were making fun of the fact that, you know, she's kind of goofy, she gets mutinied, she's not listening to anyone. That's because she's straight up a villain. Like, she's not a good... You're not supposed to want to like her at this point. Now, the turn, I completely agree with you and everyone else. It's going to be hard. And if it falls flat, it's a big like, the show is really going to suffer for that. It's the same way as how they deal with Theo. So Theo has been holding the sword for a bit. He no longer has access to the sword. Has he been corrupted enough? Or is he just going to turn into a good character now? I hope not. I like having him be conflicted. He doesn't have to be Gollum, but he needs to... I think we need a character that is like Waldreg, but younger and is on the side of good, where he is constantly feeling this pull towards joining the evil side, and he's fighting it, and he's trying to fight it. And hopefully Arondir is around to help him through it.